welcome to the LifeQuest Leadership Line to all of our viewers. Today, I have someone with us that everybody should know. And if you don't know, then I have to ask you, where have you been? Because I have straight from New Zealand, live from New Zealand, I have Dr. Heidi Haavik. And you know, it's Heidi and Ron. That's how we relate to each other. We know each other very well. Heidi is not only a chiropractor, but a neuroscientist, has her PhD in neuroscience. She's been doing phenomenal research on chiropractic, on adjustments, on the brain, you know, and the nervous system, and just really great stuff. Heidi, I don't think you really need an introduction, but welcome to the LifeQuest Leadership Line.
Thanks, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here. I love talking to you anytime.
It's so great. I think you're tomorrow, and from where I am right now, I'm maybe 3 hours behind, right?
I'm in the future. Okay.
There you go. So we're going back to the future. Anyways, it's just great stuff. But Heidi, let's jump into it. You know, let's talk about research, because that's your baby, right? You know, and there's so much good things happening in research right now, and yet, you know, we've got people who kind of want to control the ball in research. You know, we see this probably in every profession, and we see it all over the place. And I'm sure every, you know, research groups, you know, see this. Talk to me about it. Like, what are you seeing in the research realm right now? You know, because we've got clinical trials, we've got all different kinds of, but what are you seeing right now?
I actually think that we've got a lot more exciting research than most people, even in our profession, fully appreciate or understand. And so I think it's at a very exciting time, because there's been a big shift in the last 20 years in our understanding about the mechanisms. So what I'm talking about here is there's been a big growth in the basic science research. These basic science studies, they look at connections. They look at how something works, not, you know, if it's good for this condition or that condition, but how does an adjustment work? And there's been a remarkable amount, and I'm not just talking about our research, because of course our research is fantastic, you know, but there's many but there's many other groups as well that have been doing, again, really pioneering research that I haven't done anything to do with that. Like, for example, the connection between chiropractic and the immune system. But I think a lot of the profession, this has missed them. They're not aware that I didn't even realize how much was on the immune system until I actually sat down and systematically looked through the research literature and picked out these really good, high quality, peer-reviewed studies. And it wasn't just one. I mean, there's like this one and this one and this one. And I'm going, wow, I didn't realize all this awesome work was there, because I'd had my blinkers on with the neuroscience research. Of course, there's actually big connections between the nervous system and the immune system. It's just there's so much research that even a full-time scientist isn't able to keep up with it until they start looking into it. But so I'm really excited, Ron, about how much work has actually been done looking at these basic science mechanisms. Like, it is amazing. There's clear connections between how an adjustment works, that it definitely affects the nervous system and that it definitely affects the immune system. But what this means to our patients, that's another step again. It's almost like an A, B, C. We've got the A to B, but we don't have the B to C yet, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you know, Murphy and I, when Dan was on the leadership line, you know, we talked about A equals B, which is the adjustment equals affecting the nervous system, right? And then B, the nervous system, equals C, which is the immune system, right? So we know the nervous system. The function, exactly. Yep. But where we're missing is the bridge from A to C, right?
I would actually say no. I'd actually say that no. I'd even say that we have a lot of the connections, because the A to B, what I'm talking about is the connection that we affect the nervous system. But there's also very well done publications showing we affect immune system as well. But what we don't yet know, when I'm talking about the C, is we don't understand clinically what that means for our patients yet. Right. That's the big sort of missing step. So the connections are there. Like, that's what's so remarkable. It's not just we have the nervous system connections, we also have immune function connections. But like, can I give you an example? Like,
please.
So for example, we've got evidence that we change oxytocin levels, and oxytocin is very important for the immune system, and it's very important for bonding and for wellness and for quality of life. So suddenly it's like, oh, well, that explains why patients report they feel better, they relate better to other people, they connect with others better. But we haven't done those clinical trials yet to see, do those oxytocin levels, are they responsible for an improvement in their immune function? Do they get less sick? Do they respond to pathogens by fighting it easier? Do they recover faster? Those studies haven't been done yet, but we know we affect oxytocin levels. Right. So it's like the connections are actually there. We just don't know what it means clinically for our patients yet.
And that's where the clinical trials come in, right?
That's where we have to now, that's got to be our profession's main focus. But it's slightly different than the clinical trials of the past that may have focused mainly on low back pain, neck pain, and headaches. And bless those scientists that did that work for us, because right now, I don't know where we would have been if we didn't have that body of work, and now particularly in the opioid crisis, right. We wouldn't be, in America, we would not be essential workers, believe you me, you know what I mean?
No, I hear you. Yeah. But what does it look like going forward, though, with clinical trials?
So moving forward now, we can actually take into account the last 20 years of basic science research showing that we have an impact on the brain, showing that we have an impact on the prefrontal cortex, showing we have an impact on the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, showing we have an impact on the immune system. So now we could run clinical trials going, do we improve prefrontal cortex functions? Do we improve a balance in the autonomic nervous system? But we look specifically at what does this mean to our patients? Does it prevent them from getting sick? Does their frequency of getting colds and flus reduce if they're under chiropractic care? Does their brain function improve? So are they smarter? Are they more intelligent? Are they better able to control their hormonal system and their nervous system and their immune system? That's the kind of research in our clinical trials that we're literally ready. Like, it's on silver platters because we've got so much of it. It justifies us doing these clinical trials that people might not have thought about before because they were more stuck in that biomedical model of, well, what conditions are we treating? Right. We don't need to do that with all of this new mechanism study now. We can look at how does chiropractic care improve and enhance health and function and well-being, which clinicians know that they do, right?
Well, we see it every day in our practices, right? I mean,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, the anecdotal evidence has always been there. We know that chiropractic works, right? It's just, I don't know, it could be frustrating for the non-researcher and probably for the researcher too to see that we have to have this piece of paper, and this piece of paper shows that, the study was done, and therefore you can now say that chiropractic helps people with babies with colic or, bedwetting or whatever it is, right? And yet we know that we affect the nervous system. I truly believe that, our communication might not have been so on point, where chiropractors going out and saying we can cure this and cure that, because the truth is, we don't do the curing. The truth is that the body does the healing, right? But it's about us having the body become more adaptable, right? And that's having the nervous system become more in line. But that nervous system, as you and I know, and most of our viewers know, controls everything inside the body. So to have that paper, if I had hair, I'd be pulling it out, saying, what are you talking about? But on a research level, it might be something different.
Well, this comes into this whole evidence-based practice model. And currently and I think it's a fair system. Like, I don't think chiropractors should be negative towards it. It's a very fair system because otherwise any group of people could make up any claims they wanted to. And so I'm not trying to diminish the value of clinical experience. It's very, very important. But we also need to raise the research evidence, because evidence-based practice really means making decisions with an individual patient in your practice based on three equally important things: the research evidence, your clinical experience, and what the patient prefers and what they want. So it's making that three-pronged approach decision with an individual patient. And the one thing we lack, Ron, is that clinical research. We have actually got the basic science that supports the model that you were just talking about, that we know, like as chiropractors. And I know that many chiropractors have that clinical experience, that they improve function, they improve immune system, they see that in practice. I know that. But what we're lacking is we really need that clinical research evidence to just back these things up before we make those claims in public.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Two things I want to touch on. One is, with evidence-based, in all of my studies with David Sackett, of David Sackett, the father of evidence-based, when you look at the three circles, the clinical, the patient values, right? So clinician, patient values, and research values. The research value is a little bit larger, right?
No.
Well, this is what I've seen. And then when you see evidence-informed practice, it has the patient value as a little bit larger than the clinical and the research, right? And so
Right.
I tend, if that was the case, and that's how I've been taught it, I tend to move toward the evidence-informed, because we can't dismiss this patient value. I mean, if somebody's migraines are gone, or the baby has, it doesn't have colic, whatever it might be, I mean, my gosh, that there it is right there. Whereas evidence-based, I mean, I've been hearing this even in the medical communities these days, that people have been saying David Sackett will be rolling in his grave right now, knowing how people are using evidence-based to push their agendas through by making the research be everything, and that wasn't his agenda at all, No,
and I think that's a really, really important point, Ron, that there is a lot of misinformation out there about what evidence-informed, evidence-based really means. So I ignore again all the I wanted to use
chatter.
An S word that I probably shouldn't use on my recordings, but we just ignore all of that and then take the essence and the value of what he always said, and to me make them equal. And I've been to conferences, research conferences on evidence-informed practice, and even the best within the evidence-informed practice groups are arguing amongst themselves. But if you just look at the essence of what this kind of the model shows us is, it's equally important what the patient wants, your clinical experience, and the research evidence. But we've got to acknowledge as a profession we are lacking the research evidence.
Yeah,
there's so little that we've done.
Absolutely. And I know you're doing great research in New Zealand with your research, facilities there. And Life West, we're just, we've got two big ones. We're on telomeres right now. We're doing heart rate variability and stuff. But, it's like, what is it going to take? The last question that we'll talk about before we close out. What does it take? Because we really need to move in that direction, obviously. But what do you see it taking to make that happen?
I think that now might be the right time for us to collectively join together and and raise the funds that are needed. Because I think worldwide now we've experienced the fact that we can be closed down. Like in New Zealand, we were literally closed down as non-essential. And that breaks my heart. I mean, that just breaks my heart. And not just mine, most chiropractors in New Zealand, to be literally closed down as non-essential. To me, and this is all my experiences, 20 years as a scientist and a chiropractor, I think our chiropractic effect, when we regularly check and adjust the spine, we do improve overall the brain's awareness of what's going on in the body and the world around us. And that this influences and improves both our ability to cope, adapt, coordinate, and heal, including that immune system component. And I think that now is the time that we as a profession need to join together and raise the funds that are needed to do all of these different clinical trials that can document quite clearly all this basic science, the fact that we change and increase neurotensin, oxytocin, interleukin levels, these cytokine levels, these anti-inflammatory levels, reduce the pro-inflammatory levels, that these effects that are known already, what does it mean to our patients? And also all of this work that I've been doing for the last 20 years with my team at the New Zealand College of Chiropractic, showing that we impact the brain, what does that mean for our patients? So we do those clinical trials looking at brain function, adaptability, immune function, but from that clinical perspective, from the patient's point of view, because then we have that clinical piece along with our own experience piece and what the patients want to be able to make these claims that we as chiropractors know it's there. I don't not trust that chiropractic will prove itself. We just need to together unite and raise the funds and do this research really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. So docs, for our listeners out there, it's what we have to do. We have to start putting some of our money into research, right? So that we can start having this research go through, not to prove what we already know, but to actually validate, and that validation, as we know in this crisis, has definitely changed a lot, right? So it's kind of, and everyone's different. Like you guys were completely shut down. I know you guys were like quarantined in your homes, I believe. Is that correct?
We're still quarantined, but we're now allowed to see emergency patients.
Right. But even the regular street people, like Phil McMaster's a dear friend of mine, president of New Zealand College. I was on the phone with him. He said he went to the college. They were shut down, and the police stopped him, I think, as he was going in, whatever, that kind of thing, because they were like, he needed to be done. But you know what, Heidi? Thank you for all the work you've been doing, the years you've been putting into this, the fights that none of our viewers, and I know some of them because you've shared them, but to the extent of them that nobody really knows what you've gone through and you know, and all the, I don't know, the roadblocks that have been put up, mostly from inside of our profession, right? You know, I remember when you were with Bennett Amalu, right, and at the Wave a few years ago, and it was like you talked about that. But thank you for all you're doing. You know, to our viewers, you know, Heidi can be reached. Heidi, your website is?
The best one is probably drheidi.net, so drheidi.net. And the other one is The Reality Check, so therealitycheck.com.
Good. We'll put it on the bottom.
Resources.
Yep. Yeah, Heidi, I know you've got phenomenal materials. Docs, if you haven't checked it out, check out our material. My family practice, Mary and I, that our kids now have, use all of her materials in that practice. It's really, really good stuff. And I know you didn't think I was going to be endorsing you, but you know, but please just go take a look at that. Heidi, thank you again for being with us today. We really, really appreciate it. We'll get another time when this is all over, and we'll have a different chat. You know, more about, you know, the A to B to C, the directions that we can start taking to make this happen. So thank you for being with us. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. We hope that you keep coming back to the LifeQuest Leadership Line. We've got amazing people who want to share, you know, their knowledge with us in very short bites so we can take it in. Remember, stay safe. Keep loving those around you and send as much love out as you can, and keep living your life from above, down, and inside out. Until I see you the next time, be well, my friends.